This is the Fantasy Ladder Podcast, episode 8. I'm your host, Steve, at Fantasy Ladder. This podcast is brought to you by the IDP Guys Network from idpguys.org. So, welcome back once again, my fantasy football friends and family. Let's climb the ladder of fantasy football together. Today, we are continuing the great series on covering each team from the fan base's perspective, bringing you some of my favorites from the fantasy football community to talk about their favorite teams. We are doing this to add a little bit more depth and a little bit more heart to the discussion, since I might not be as plugged into the team or understand the history of each team as well as my own, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. I somehow make every show about the Eagles, so we're not going to try to do that today. So today we are going to be covering the great Baltimore Ravens with a little help from my friend Bob. So we're going to bring Bob on and we're going to get to know him before we start the discussion. Bob, how you doing? And how long have you been a Ravens fan?
Oh, wow. Since 1996. I'm doing all right, man. But yeah, 96 when we got our team back. I'm originally from Baltimore. I live in Tennessee now. Um, I had a hard time as a kid growing up. I didn't have a favorite football team. I was a huge
Interesting.
fan of, I was a huge fan of more players
Sure.
than teams. I was a huge Bo Jackson fan, a ginormous Joe Montana fan, hated John Elway, couldn't stand Dan Marino. Um, yeah. So I had a hard time, kind of figuring out. I guess I used to like the Raiders and the Niners. Never got on board with the Redskins. I had some friends that since being in Baltimore, they were big Redskins fans because they had no other choice. My grandmother always remained a Colts fan. She was a huge Colts fan. Them being in Baltimore, big Unitas fan. And then when they moved to Indy, she just stayed right on that train, man. So she kept on board with that. But yeah, when we got our team in '96, I was super excited. I was right out of high school and just in a peak of just being a crazy sports fanatic. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
oh yeah, I was so super stoked for Vinny Testaverde and Ernest Biner as our running back and Michael Jackson as our wide receiver. We did have Orlando Brown as our right tackle then as well, just his
Oh,
dad.
interesting. Wow.
But we had Jonathan Ogden was our first pick in Ravens history, and then our second pick was Ray Lewis later on in the first
Wow.
round. So
Amazing.
those turned out to be all right. So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it's interesting. Growing up in the suburbs of Philly, it just has always been Eagles as my team. But it is interesting the thing you said about specific players, kind of that's how you started, right? So for me, it was just like it was Barry Sanders. Like he just
wow.
totally pulled me in to the game. But obviously, like the love of the Eagles was just always there. But definitely Barry Sanders was like the guy, and then and then some others like Brett Favre. It was like everyone and their mother loved Brett Favre and stuff. But yeah, so Bob is an awesome guy. You can find him at Dynasty Bob FF. He is the founder of dynastyprosfootball.com. Gave me my start as a fantasy football writer. So this is me on the record, on the public record, thanking you and appreciating you for giving me the first chance at it. So you do mean a lot to me. So I appreciate you. So can you tell me a little bit about dynastyprosfootball.com and if there's anything exciting coming up for it?
Oh my goodness, man, where do I start? Gosh Almighty. It's great for the dynasty world because dynasty never stops. Right now is some of the most active times. And in all honesty, I think dynasty leagues are more active in the off season versus in season. You're kind of like you get a little bored sometimes in season. And right now, a lot of drafts have happened, but some rookie drafts have not happened. So there's a lot of trades, a lot of stuff. We have a lot of people, clicking on our website just to see our rookie rankings. We have some of the most in depth rookie rankings. We've got them broken down per position. We've got, oh my gosh, we've got IDP rookie rankings. We have offense and IDP combined. So if
Oh,
you have that, so you can kind of get an idea of when should I take this linebacker or this defensive end or something, second round, third round, whatever. We've got a lot of stuff with our dynasty trade value charts. Those are huge because I have the new rookies included in those to compare to veterans and whatnot. But we also have a trade value set on rookie picks. So if you haven't made a pick yet in 2022's draft, we have a value on those picks, and we also have a value on 2023 picks as well, since everyone's kind of hyping up next year's draft class. So
Yeah,
we've got a
absolutely.
lot of stuff going on, lots of content coming out daily. Like I said, some of the best rankings you'll find, and some of the best trade value charts that you can find as well. And right now we're doing a special. Our memberships are only $3.99 a month, or $39 for the entire year. Um, so we definitely appreciate the support. If you become a member with us, you will not be disappointed. There's a lot of good stuff that comes with that membership. So and Steve, I do thank you. You're one of the longest tenured guys with the website, and we certainly love you to pieces. And we're very, very blessed to have you as part of the team.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, obviously, I know about the good stuff happening at Dynasty Pros, but now hopefully the rest of my audience does. And when I say that, I mean at least my mom. So, hi, mom. Thanks for listening. Um, but let's shift gears now to the Baltimore Ravens. I always say the mighty Baltimore Ravens. They just always seem to be in a position to be successful, just nailing draft after draft, and just really getting immense return on values, even with their trades and things. So we'll get into a lot of this sort of stuff. But before we jump into the look ahead to the 2022 season, let's just have a summary of how they reached to this offseason. The Ravens finished the 2021 season with an 8-9 record. They were tied for third, which was also last in the division. They missed the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. A major storyline for the team, unfortunately, was that how injuries just completely brutalized the team over the course of the season, starting on a really awful note with J.K. Dobbins, and then seemingly, I think it was the next week with Gus Edwards, just absolutely brutal. Um, Yet they still managed to be a mostly competitive squad where it came down to the last game of the season and they just unfortunately fell short to Pittsburgh. But not to rub salt in the wounds or anything, but it just was a tough year, you know? So, Bob, I know how passionate of a Ravens fan you are. Are you anticipating this season more than typical seasons because of the tough year last year? Or is it just a typical regular level of anticipation for you?
No, no, I anticipated just a little bit more. You know me, and I'm a very, very, I'm a huge, huge fan of my Ravens, and I do a lot of traveling to go see them play in other places. I booked a flight last year to Miami to go see them play the Dolphins in Thursday night football, which was just horrible. I mean, they just really, really crapped the bed that game.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, there was a lot of injuries last year, and like you said, you brought up the Gus Edwards injury, and then that was in a practice, and the very next play in practice, I mean they get him up off the field, and then they run one more play, and that's when Marcus Peters goes down, ACL. They said, you know
Oh,
what,
wow.
we're putting a bow on this practice, and they stopped. So that was back to back plays in practice that just decimated the team. And then there was just more injuries on top of that. And you were talking about how we finished, tied for last. And I mean, mid season, actually a little bit past mid season, we were the number one seed in the AFC, and then Lamar got hurt, and at that point, we pretty much lost six in a row. And yeah, that's how we finished. So,
Hmm.
very, very much looking forward to some of the guys returning. Ronnie Stanley at left tackle is huge. Um, Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey at corner. Those were two huge losses. I mean, going up against teams like Cincinnati, you need secondary, and we had guys that were on the streets, weeks before coming out there and starting, for Baltimore. So it was a tough watch, but they played their hearts out. I will give them that. So, but so
Gotcha.
much, but yeah, very, very much looking forward to this season because I can't wait to get my hands on Cincinnati again. And Cleveland, who knows what's going to go on there? Pittsburgh's in a little bit of a rebuild. But yeah, Cincinnati's the one that I'm really, really looking forward to playing. Burrow's got some swag, man. I got to give him that. He loves talking smack. So I want to see him eat a little crow.
That's
That
right. Yeah, it's a pretty
unintended.
exciting transition in that division, but definitely want to be able to what you want to be able to like wipe the smirk off of Burrow's face too at the same time,
Do. Oh, I
all
do.
in good fun, but just want to have a little bit of humble pie, so and I think the Ravens will be able to do that. Now, I was going to transition into their movement in free agency. So this was kind of an interesting bit of movement for them. So in the draft, they traded away Marquise Brown to the Cardinals. They did not retain Sammy Watkins, so maybe not the biggest deal in the world. They did not retain defensive tackle Justin Ellis, and then 5 defensive backs they did not retain. Just gonna rattle off their last names real quick here: Young, Everett, Westry, Dorsey, Elliott, and center Bozeman. They did
Yeah.
add offensive lineman Morgan Moses, safety Marcus Williams, running back Mike Davis, as well as cornerback Kyle Fuller just recently here, defensive tackle Michael Pierce, and then just today actually they added quarterback Brett Hundley. Maybe we don't care about that as much, I don't know. But what are your thoughts on these moves, Bob? Specifically the loss of Marquise Brown. Has trading him away been an overstated or an understated issue for the Ravens offense?
That's yet to be determined. I certainly did not like losing him. I did like the return that we got. I liked getting a first rounder because we typically do well with our returns with our draft picks, and getting Tyler Linderbaum, which I'm sure we'll cover at some point. Um, I can't argue that, especially with Hollywood did not want to be a part of the Ravens any longer. He understood. I mean, the guy's 5'8", 170 pounds. He doesn't want to go out and block, and that offense requires you to block a lot. And he's undersized. He's smaller than anyone he's going up against. Um, so in order for him to get paid, he needed to go to an offense that's going to throw the ball and chuck it down the field a lot. So I don't blame him. I hate losing him. He's so electric, and he was just getting better every season.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
I I hated losing him, but I get it. I get it from his point of view. But I don't think it's going to hurt the Ravens as much as some folks think. Um, the loss of Sammy Watkins isn't going to hurt. He was just a little bit of depth, I guess you could say.
Mm,
But no, with the loss of Hollywood, I think Rashad Bateman's going to step in just fine. They're going back to that 2019 offense. That's going to be, a 12 personnel, even a 13, where they're going to have 2, 3, tight ends out there where, Lamar's MVP season. And, they at that year all they had was Hollywood. They didn't have really anybody else at wide receiver, and they did just fine. In fact, they broke records. Um, so having that type of offense run again with Rashad Bateman instead of Hollywood, I think we're going to be just fine. I really do, and I could see Baltimore adding another veteran wide receiver by chance, maybe an Odell Beckham or Will Fuller possibly. But
I think that'd be real nice. Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see what happens, but this offense doesn't need to pay a wide receiver. That's not the offense we run, so we don't need a $20 million receiver. And Hollywood wasn't going to be here a year from now anyway, so they got a first rounder out of the guy. Kudos. Eric DaCosta always does well with his draft picks. When we traded Hayden Hurst a couple of seasons ago, we turned that pick into J.K. Dobbins. We traded up, we drafted a punter, Kyle Vedvik, I believe, or something, a few years ago. We draft this guy, has an incredible preseason, then we trade him to the Minnesota Vikings for a fifth round pick, which we took that pick and turned it into Calais Campbell. Um,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. We, tr-
Unbelievable.
we traded Kenny Young, a backup linebacker, to the Rams
Okay.
for and a fifth round pick that we had acquired for Marcus Peters. So Baltimore knows what they're doing with these picks, and so the fact that we got Linderbaum in exchange for a Hollywood Brown that wasn't coming back anyways, kudos, man. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll slot right in as they weren't able to retain Bozeman, and he was like the top center prospect in the draft. So I think it's a home run. Um,
absolutely.
but I think it's an interesting point about the offense not needing a Marquise Brown type, because I think that Rashad Bateman will have a great opportunity to step up, and he of course was a little bit banged up last year as well. What do you think about the support cast of the wide receivers like Tylan Wallace or James Proche or Devin Duvernay? You think there's any possibility of them stepping up, or are they just kind of like role wide receivers and it's just gonna be like the Mark Andrews show in the running game?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be Rashad Bateman and the Mark Andrews show. It's going to be those two guys.
Gotcha.
Um, those are the guys you're going to want in fantasy. Rashad Bateman's a nice, he's an obvious breakout candidate for this season. And Mark Andrews is going to get his targets and he's going to get his fantasy points. So to me, Mark Andrews is the tight end one, even in Dynasty. I know a lot of folks have Kyle Pitts there, but Kyle Pitts hasn't done anything just yet. Okay, so if Kyle Pitts comes out this year, puts up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns, then my mind will be changed without a doubt. But right now, you can't lose with someone like a Mark Andrews on your team, and Travis Kelsey would be there, but he's older, and so he doesn't have as many elite seasons left in him as someone like Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts. So yeah, those two guys are going to be the first two weapons used. But to answer your question about Devin Duvernay or James Prochet, Prochet is an intriguing player because he has incredible hands. He
Okay.
he's he shows so much in practice, but he just hasn't gotten the opportunity. Well, he's going to get it now. Unless Baltimore gets another veteran receiver or something, he's going to have opportunities. Devin Duvernay as well. He's shown flashes. He's more of a special teams guy. He's Pro Bowler, special teams returner.
Right.
Um, but he's made some incredible catches, and we took him a couple of years ago, and John Harbaugh, if you ever go back and watch the videos when they drafted Duvernay, the guy just absolutely flipped his lid and just celebrated. They had a camera on him, and he just like freaks out. He's so happy. Um, I'm not as worried as some other folks. I mean, I'm on a lot of chats and face. Oh my God, Ravens Facebook is just awful. People are just freaking out, so negative all the time. I'm
That's
not.
interesting. Okay.
Oh, they are. They're just everything is just doom and gloom when it comes to these conversations that people are having on there. They just think it's awful. Just like Lamar Jackson not attending OTAs right now. They're acting like, oh, it's contract situation. He's unhappy with the Ravens. This isn't a good look. No, he's getting special training with a quarterback trainer.
Hmm.
So he's doing his own training on the side. He can't wait to get back to OTAs. There's nothing more. There's nothing more to read into it, and a lot of folks are trying to create something out of nothing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to some of these receivers stepping up. And there's some rookies. We've drafted some guys and signed a couple of them as unrestricted, undrafted rookie free agents that maybe we'll discuss a little bit later. That I'm really excited about. I'm really intrigued about. So yeah, I'm looking
Gotcha.
forward to it. And
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
so
just
yeah,
curious because I have a lot of you know, deep leagues, like deep dynasty leagues, where I'm still holding on to Tylan Wallace. I did become a big fan of his during like the winter last year, just watching some of these big explosive plays, but
I've
he did
got you one.
struggle.
I've
Oh,
got
okay.
you a guy. I've got you a stash, okay, for your
Oh,
dynasty
perfect.
leagues. Don't you worry. I've got you one.
Sounds good. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm curious if he's still worth holding on to, or if he could maybe be cut. Just keep
It
on the
depends
watch
on
list
how
or
deep your
something.
league is, Tylen. It just really depends on how deep your league is. I mean, there's some guys. There's some guys you can stick on your bench or a taxi squad or something that I give you. Tylan Wallace is there's no problem doing that, but there's a couple of guys they picked up uh, after the draft that
Oh, gotcha.
we'll talk about in a little bit. When we get to the draft. So yeah, yeah. I'm not worried about the wide receiver core, not nearly as much as other people are. They just think, oh my God, Lamar Jackson drops down a little bit in fantasy value because he lost Hollywood. Nope, nope, not worried about it one bit.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so speaking of their 2022 draft class, the NFL.com writer Chad Reuter, who does all these like ridiculous mock drafts and things, he gave like each team a draft grade, right? So he gave them an A. And this was like obvious to me that this was like no surprise. I thought the Ravens absolutely crushed the draft this year. So I'm just gonna run through some of the notable selections they made, and then we can talk about that as well as the UDFA's here coming up. But
Well, what
round
about the
one,
free agents? What about the Ravens free agents that they picked up? I mean, we were talking about free agency a little while ago, and we didn't even get to talk about Marcus Williams and Kyle Fuller and all that.
oh,
But
oh, you can go
no,
for it.
no,
Go, go for it.
no. It's cool. It's cool. I'm really excited about the free agency and what they did there. Morgan Moses at right tackle is huge. It's absolutely huge. Marcus Williams, I don't have to say much about that. He's
Right.
arguably the best free safety in the NFL right now, and he's in the prime of his career.
Yep.
Baltimore got him to a 5-year deal, so they're going to have him for
Oh,
quite a
wow.
while. Kyle Fuller took a step back last year, um, but he's a former All Pro corner. Marcus Peters took a step back before he came to Baltimore and really, really rejuvenated him. I think Kyle Fuller is going to be a huge pickup for the Ravens. Very, very underrated. And then the addition of Michael Pierce um, on the defensive line, having him and Calais Campbell on that defensive line really plugging things up, but both of them can still get after the quarterback. They're sneaky good at getting after the quarterback. I'm super, super excited. About that as well. So yeah, I could talk about free agency till I'm blue in the face, and I'm not going to do that. But yeah, that's my thoughts with the with free agency. Mike Davis, picking him up, he's depth at running back. I mean, we had some injuries there, so let's pick up some guys that he could possibly make the team. In the next couple of months. Brett Hundley, no big deal. Like we said a little while ago, Lamar's not in OTAs. They need another quarterback there. Nah, I don't think he's going to last very long in Baltimore.
Yeah, I think for fantasy purposes, I think Tyler Huntley actually was a pleasant surprise. If you had to use him, he just had like the rushing upside that Lamar Jackson has. But I think the Brett Hundley experience, unfortunately, is just going to be one that we just may never know. He's just behind Aaron Rodgers all that time, and then it was kind of passed around a little bit, and a very intriguing prospect at the time, right? But just didn't happen for him.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it was a little bit. He was a little too early, just like prospects before him. Lamar
mm,
really changed things for football, and I mean, like you said, Lamar was viewed. I mean, some teams wanted him to work out at wide receiver, and we know how that history is. But Lamar really
right.
changed things to where it makes these dual threat quarterbacks more intriguing. I don't think honestly, Kyler Murray probably wouldn't have been what he is right now had it not been for someone like Lamar. Some of these quarterbacks that can run, Malik Willis probably wouldn't. He probably would have gone undrafted, this year. But people see Lamar, and the NFL is a copycat league, and everyone wants to find that next guy or a guy that can run an offense like that. So, yeah, yeah, it makes some of these guys. Hundley probably, if he was in a draft today, would get a lot more opportunity, in my
Mm,
opinion, than I think he came out of UCLA, if I'm not mistaken. I
hmm.
remember, I
Yep.
remember when he was being drafted. But just at that time, teams weren't really willing to risk on a kind of a dual threat guy. So.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of those early versions of like Lamar that they really had a hard time staying healthy. So the issue was
RG3
trying
really
to
did that.
and
Robert Griffin
Michael
III
Vick and
really
Michael
did that.
Vick was very on and off with his health. So I think like the way that the Ravens were able to utilize Lamar, it really just kind of really paved a unique path to having this kind of offense run while keeping this guy upright. Um,
Absolutely.
so no, I think you bring up a really good point about Kyler Murray and just the timing of Hundley. I think that or Hundley, I think that's a really interesting point there. That's great.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time to talk about the free agents because that's why I brought you on. So my
Yeah.
bad for glossing that over. But
Oh, no worries
but
at
but but
all.
this is why I want you on because you're in with the team way more than I am.
Yeah,
And just kind of pointing out some of that information is just really valuable stuff. So I appreciate that.
sure, no problem. Let's talk about the draft a little.
Yes, so this really unbelievably dominant draft class, as far as I'm concerned, the Ravens had. So we'll start in the first round. Pick 14, Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. Then at pick 25, we touched on the center, Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. Round two, pick 45, linebacker David Ajabo out of Michigan. I'm really rooting for that guy. Unfortunately, suffered the Achilles injury at his pro day, but definitely middle of the second round for a first round talent. I mean, you just can't go wrong there. So awesome stuff. Round three, defensive tackle Travis Jones, who really very, very well could have been a second rounder, so
Mhm.
really good value there. Then in round four, they had 6 picks. They take an offensive tackle, a couple cornerbacks, 2 tight ends, and punter Jordan Stout. Then round six, one of my favorite running backs in the class, as far as a prospect goes, running back Tyler Beatty. So, like I said, I think that the Ravens absolutely crushed this draft. Seems like they always do, and their successful track record has been well established as far as I'm concerned. So, with these picks and just knowing the overall feel of the roster, do you feel that the team fulfilled the roster needs, and do you have a favorite and least favorite pick, if at all?
Oh wow. Um, yeah, we filled definitely filled roster needs without a doubt. As far as a favorite and least favorite pick, wow, man, that's on the spot because there's so many picks I like, so many picks, and like you were talking about David Ojabu, he could end up being my favorite pick. Ask me again in like 2 years. Um, gosh Almighty, my friend.
Now, least favorite could also mean like if there was a player they took, if there's like a player like a different position, maybe you would have preferred. Like maybe in round three, if there's a different player you're looking at compared to Travis Jones or something. Wasn't sure. If it was up to you, were you happy with the choices, or do you think maybe they could have gone a different direction on some of those?
I think to answer your question, who's my favorite and least favorite pick? I might catch a little heat on this, but both of those answers are in the first round.
Hmm. Okay.
To my favorite pick was Tyler Linderbaum. And I did my mock draft over at dynastyprosfootball.com. I had the Ravens trading back into the first round to get Tyler Linderbaum. So
Oh
kind of
wow.
kind of
Look at that.
predicted, yeah, I predicted that one, which was cool. Um, and I really, really liked that pick. I love Linderbaum. He is an absolute monster. He is serious. And last year, I really wanted Creed Humphrey from Alabama.
Okay.
But the friggin' Chiefs, the Chiefs got him. And I really, really wanted him because he was an awesome center. And we really needed help there. I wasn't sold on Bradley Bozeman. And in fact, Bradley Bozeman, great guy. But wanted way too much money.
Hmm.
Ravens tried to lock him up multiple times. He got greedy, unfortunately. There was a point at, some reports out there, a little rumor that the Ravens even offered him $8 million a year for, I think, like a 4-year contract, 3 or 4 years. 8 million, okay, 8 million a year, and he turned it down because he wanted to
Hmm.
hit free agency. So they're looking at Ryan Jensen out of Tampa at center, who the Ravens, drafted as a matter of fact years ago. Went way too much. Guy went for like 13 mil a year. Ravens were not playing that game. So Bradley Bozeman goes back to Baltimore. He's not getting the money that he was hoping. He goes back to Baltimore, but they'd kind of we've gone down this road with him a couple of times, and once Eric DaCosta is done, he's done. He,
Interesting.
he he's done. And so same thing happened with Zadarius Smith. That whole nutty situation with him. But to just wrap it up, Bradley Bozeman had to settle for a 1 year deal with Carolina for 1.5 million.
Wow.
Maybe it was 2.5. Who cares? But that's what he had to do. Baltimore wasn't messing with him anymore. They gave him several opportunities to re-sign with him. Nope. So I loved getting back to Tyler Linderbaum and talking about Creed Humphrey. Loved Creed Humphrey, like I said. I hated that he was taken by, of all teams, Kansas City. But and if you look, Creed Humphrey is probably a top three, definitely a top five center in the NFL right now. He was a Pro
Mm.
Bowler. He was an absolute stud last year. And Tyler Linderbaum is substantially better than him.
Well, there you go. Very
So
nice.
to be that excited, I mean, I was extremely excited about getting him. Now, to flip things on you, talking about it's not a pick I hated, it's just my least favorite pick, and that was Kyle Hamilton.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
and I'm a Notre Dame guy. That's my favorite school. I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan, and I liked Kyle Hamilton, but I really wanted the Ravens to go grab Jamison Williams, and
Mm.
in my mock draft, I had the Ravens taking Jamison Williams, and because I even in that mock draft before any of this stuff happened with Hollywood Brown getting traded, I even put in there, who knows how long Hollywood's going to be in Baltimore. He's not happy with the offense. His agent is the same agent that represents AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel. We see how all that's going. Um, so I thought Baltimore would be smart to go grab that type of wide receiver to replace him in Jamison Williams. If he slipped and fell, I thought would have been the perfect pick there. That's what I was rooting for. And then Detroit, those sons of guns, traded up, 2 picks in front of Baltimore and took him. They knew the Ravens were going to grab him. They had no doubt that he was falling. So they had to trade all the way up, 2 picks in front of Baltimore to grab him, snipe him right out from under us. But that was okay. That was okay because we had a backup plan. That backup plan was Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. That was the backup plan. And let's see what happened there. Oh yeah,
My
Philadelphia.
Eagles. Yeah. This
Eagles
is awkward.
hop in front of Baltimore and grab him. And
Yeah.
so I that was the plan. That's exactly what was going to happen. And I've dealt with that for years. Several years ago, the Ravens were really hurting at tight end. And now this has been several years back. And I'll never forget they were in the second round and they were about to draft a tight end, a really good prospect tight end. I think back in 2010, maybe it could have been, but a tight end named Rob Gronkowski.
Okay.
And they were going to grab him. Everyone knew it. And the New England Patriots jumped right in front of the Ravens, the pick in front of the Ravens, and took Gronk. So then
Whoa.
Baltimore had to, in turn, as a backup plan, they took Ed Dixon out of Oregon at tight end. But it was okay. Baltimore, the next round, there was another tight end they were kind of looking at that was slipping in the draft. His name was Hernandez or whatever, out
Right.
of Florida. The one that's
Yep.
unfortunately dead now and all that. They were going to take him, and guess who jumps in front of him again? The Patriots, and
Jeez.
they took Hernandez. And so Baltimore had to settle, and they took a tight end the next pick, and they took Dennis Pitta. So I've dealt with that a few times in the
Mm.
past, but yeah, with this one, we were really. I think Jameson Williams was the pick, and and then Jordan Davis was the backup. That was the backup plan. That was the plan B, and neither one worked out. So I think Baltimore, took at that point. I think they didn't know what route to go, so they
Sure.
took the pretty much the highest graded guy in the draft that was available, and that was Kyle Hamilton.
Right.
I don't hate the pick. It just wasn't a need. But if you look at the Ravens secondary with Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, now you have Kyle Fuller and you've got Kyle Hamilton, and you just signed this stud, Marcus Williams. Um, to combat teams like Cincinnati, who has an incredible air attack,
Right.
I think it was a good job. I think the Baltimore Ravens will trade Chuck Clark. Love the guy to death, but I don't know if there's really a need for him. I mean, we could use him, but I think he probably could get us draft capital that would be more valuable to us than him, playing in a backup role.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that's a great answer. Yeah, because I always have wishes that the Eagles do one thing or another, and then they go a different direction. And it's like, what do I know? You know what I
Oh man,
mean?
the
But
Eagles killed the draft. I mean, you're talking about the Ravens. I mean, the Eagles got some great players.
oh no,
Got
I was very happy with their draft this year, but just like years in the past, just there's a lot of times where I'm just left just upset,
yeah. Well, at least
by
you got
who they
something to be
take. And
happy about this year, and
that's right. Yeah.
so and I was very very pleased with the draft. Talking about those two guys, and then we just talked about David Ojabu a little bit. I mean, that guy's got all the talent in the world. He just
Yep.
needs time to heal up and come back. So I'm super excited about that. Travis Jones in the fourth round, actually in the third round, underrated pick. Some people had him as a first round talent. A lot of teams had him as a second round talent. I don't know how he slipped. Reminds me of the Orlando Brown, them picking him up in that one draft where they, gosh almighty, there was a lot of guys the Ravens got in that draft. That was, I think, Lamar and Orlando and Hayden Hurst, Mark Andrews. I mean, there was a lot of guys in that draft. But um, Jones, he's a man. That's a man amongst boys out there. And if you watched him in like the Senior Bowl and the Senior Bowl like practices, and he was slinging around these offensive linemen, and these were first round drafted offensive linemen. He was tossing them around like they were nothing. Um, I said it in a couple of shows ago that I did. He reminds me the way he looked in college. Don't take this out of context, but the way he looked in college looks a lot like what Aaron Donald is in the NFL,
Sure.
is how Travis Jones was in college. I'm not saying he's going to come to the NFL and start going all Aaron Donald on people, but he's going to have a lot harder competition now.
Right.
But in college, he was just bullying uh, offensive lines. It was fun to watch, and I just hope some of that. I hope we get some of that, yeah, in the NFL. So I
Yeah, it's
was,
interesting. He's not a bad consolation prize for missing out on Davis, and just a really a great fit as Calais Campbell is still good, but he is getting older. He's
yeah,
35 now.
yeah.
Just a great transition. Just a great way to just turn the page from one superstar, hopefully to another. So,
And they can
um,
learn a lot from Calais Campbell.
that's right.
He's going to have a lot that he's going to be able. They're going to be able to pick up from him, which I'm really, really excited about as well. Underrated
Awesome.
stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's great.
Daniel Falele, there's a right tackle they took. I mean, the guy's like
Yep.
6'8", 6'9",
Okay.
380 pounds. Um, he's been playing football for about 4 years. He's an ex rugby player, but
Oh, gotcha.
he has incredible talent, and he's just throwing people around as well. It's if you go and watch some of his highlights, no one's bullying him. He's a little raw, obviously, but I think the sky's the limit for him. The beautiful thing about that is that he could play 2 or 3 years with the Ravens and not really reach that potential. And I think Baltimore could sign him to a 3 or 4 year contract at a very very good price, and then him really, really turn it on. So I'm
Definitely.
looking for
Yeah.
that's something I'm kind of looking forward to seeing there. We got our next punter. Sam Cook retired, and so we drafted Jordan Stout. So we
Yep.
got our punter for the next several years, and with Sam Cook retiring, that was a 2.5 million off the books. So that can help us out, going in. Charlie Kolar, tight end, and Isaiah Likely. Kolar is kind of a Hayden Hurst, a little bit of a Hayden Hurst type of replica, but Isaiah Likely is someone that is extremely intriguing because he was PFF's highest graded tight end ever.
Whoa.
Yeah. They played at Coastal Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. So he didn't play against elite talent, but he is an elite talent. He has a lot of tools. That he's not much of a blocker. He's more of that receiving tight end. Um, but even in OTAs that are going on right now, you know, our offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, and some people are really, really excited after watching him play with his talent. Um, I think he made a comment today. Greg Roman commented today that we're going to see some Mark Andrews like plays out of Isaiah Likely sooner than later.
Wow.
Yeah, so talk about some stashes in your dynasty leagues. Isaiah Likely is a guy that could be worth stashing. Um, so that's some name to it. Tyler Beatty. I really, really loved watching him in college. I like that, but I don't know how much fantasy relevance he's going to have. I think if anything, I think they'll probably they could put him on the practice squad, and I think some other team might snatch him up, which may
Gotcha.
not be bad for his fantasy value. So that's something to maybe keep in mind. But those are all the picks that I really, really got excited about. So
Yeah, I mean that's great. Again, just having that better understanding of the players is exactly what I was hoping for. And my mom, of course, who's listening. um, Now, as far as the undrafted free agent signings, did any of those stick out to you? I know that's like getting real deep here. Guys that didn't get drafted, obviously, but do get scooped up. A couple players I was excited that, like the Eagles signed, for example, quarterback Carson Strong. I was pretty happy with that. Running back Kennedy Brooks. Although there's always some guys you kind of wish that they would take a chance on, right? One for me was like wide receiver Justin Ross. Big fan of him. I'm wishing him well, obviously. How about you with the Ravens? Anyone stick out to you?
two guys,
Okay,
and this is some of the stashes that I was going to tell you about.
perfect.
One guy that stuck out to me is Slade Bolden out of Alabama. It's like a slot
Yes.
receiver. I don't know how the Ravens could utilize him. He looks a lot. He just reminds me, just watching him in college, he's a poor man's Hunter Renfro.
Oh, I
Okay.
love that. Yeah,
He's not as good as Hunter Renfro. I'm not putting that out there, but there are a lot of similarities. Um, I don't know if he's going to be like fantasy relevant, but team relevant. I'm really, really interested in seeing what can happen with him. I think he is a great potential slot receiver, whether it's with the Ravens or if someone maybe picks him up signs him off the practice squad or something. That is a guy to keep your eyes on. He may be better to move on to another team,
interesting.
um, but he has got a lot of talent. He just he was buried behind a lot of those other receivers at Alabama. So he didn't get the recognition that he probably could have, at other schools. But the guy that really stands out to me is Devin Williams out of Oregon.
Okay,
You're probably going, who the hell is that? Um,
absolutely.
he is a 6'5", 220-pound wide receiver
Mm,
that has all of the tools in the world. So any Ravens fans that may be watching this show, or just any fantasy football fans that might be watching this show and looking at stashes, go pull up some YouTube highlights of this guy. he has had a few off the field issues. Not saying he's a bad guy, but he has some personal things he's had to deal with that made him a little inconsistent and made some teams possibly shy away from him in the draft. But you go and watch his footage. He reminds me of a cross between two players in college that I see because he's big and he can win a lot of highlights of him winning the 50-50 ball that are chucked up, just heaving it downfield and he comes down with it. That has a little bit of Mike Williams,
Okay.
flavor to it. Okay. Mike Williams was a lot like that at Clemson. Um, but a guy that he reminds me of, and it's so strange to say this in a way, is a former Ravens player that was drafted like this as well, and that was Darren Waller.
Okay.
Darren Waller was a wide receiver out of Georgia Tech that the Ravens took a chance on, and they knew he was something to develop. He was someone they needed to work on. Um, he had a lot of off the field issues. He was into drugs. He did some stupid stuff, which he's cleared up now, and
Yep.
we're super happy for him. But they moved him over to tight end and started really working him there, and he was learning the position. And you're sitting. I remember the Ravens were playing I think might have been the Oakland Raiders at the time, and I think that it was. I want to say that it was Gruden. Don't quote me on that, but I want to say it was Gruden was out there pregame, and he's looking at the Ravens guys out here practicing, and he goes, "Who the heck is that guy? Who is that guy, that huge guy right over there? Who is he?" And so they do a little research on Darren Waller, and then they sign him off the Ravens practice squad. So we know how that turned out.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And
but Devin,
again, I love these calls that you're bringing out because in a mostly underwhelming wide receiver core, there's absolutely potential.
Mhm.
I mean, it may be a little bit, it may be a little bit of a process for them there, but definitely big names to have on at least like the watch list, or on your radar for sure. That's all
Yeah,
that
Devin
that
Smith
that's
is a
tremendous.
stash. And that is if you
Yeah.
have a deep league, I mean, I'm not dropping a decent wide receiver to go grab him, but if you're in like these crazy deep leagues, you're just looking for dudes to fill some taxi squad spots or whatever. Devin
Yep.
Smith is certainly a guy that I would grab. He is a prospect, just like Miles Boykin was for the Ravens, and just didn't quite put it all together. He could end up being that, but he's a low cost, you know, high reward guy. You're not losing anything by picking him up, but he is someone that I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can develop,
That's
into
great.
some.
You
Yep.
said out of Oregon, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oregon. Gotcha. Perfect.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, that was tremendous. I appreciate that. So we're going to look ahead now to this season, right? As we touched on before, there's a lot of unique movement in the AFC North. The Steelers are now in the process of rebuilding that roster. So you could maybe expect that maybe a down season or a average season for them. The Cincinnati Bengals had this, as far as I'm concerned, a big surprise of a boom season. So very exciting, but still. And then the Browns, of course, with Deshaun Watson and the Baker Mayfield situation, like what's going to happen there, more specifically about Watson. But still, if Watson is on the field, that's a really tough division now. I mean, it has been for years. But just a very unique one, with the movement in the division and with the previous season of the bad injuries, how confident are you in the Ravens' ability to return to the playoffs for 2022? Do you think that's in the realm of possibility that they could just go ahead and win the division again? Or do you think it's more realistic to aim for that second wild card spot?
Yeah. The playoffs are an absolute possibility, even though the AFC is just tough. I mean, the AFC is just crazy right now with what the AFC, what the West has done.
Yeah.
But those guys are going to tear each other apart. The Chargers are an incredible team that's just gotten better with the additions of like Khalil Mack. Some of those guys, and then obviously the Broncos of with the acquisition of Russell Wilson. I mean, that's going to change things substantially. The Raiders, Devontae Adams,
Yep.
and they're always a little underrated. And then oh yeah, you've got the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's four teams right there. And then you've got, like you said, you've got the Bengals, who are the AFC, the reigning AFC champs, and they're not getting any love right now. Everybody's paying attention to all these other teams, and Cleveland's going to be tough. But I've said it for years: the Browns are going to brown. I mean, they're gonna screw it up somehow. Um, I really do think that. I don't think their wide receivers have gotten any better. I mean, they lost a couple of really, really good ones last year, and they've gotten Amari Cooper, which is a very, very good wide receiver, but who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, they've got some really good guys on defense. Having Jadeveon Clowney re-sign there, opposite of Miles Garrett, that's scary. That's very, very scary. Their
Yep.
secondary is not bad, but they just always seem to shoot themselves in the foot. Um, Pittsburgh's going to be strong. Pittsburgh's got an incredible defense, and they're going to surprise some people, especially if Kenny Pickett's starting. I think they're going to be a very, very surprising team. They always play hard, and they always seem to exceed expectations no matter what.
Yep.
Um, and then you've got the Indianapolis Colts that have improved dramatically. The Tennessee Titans are always tough.
Yep.
There are just the New England Patriots. Gosh, what Miami has done this offseason. Gosh. Oh, and then there's what's that team in Buffalo? I mean, come on, man. The
Yeah.
AFC is going to be just brutal. But I definitely see the Ravens being one of those teams that is flying a little bit under the radar, which is cool. That's cool with
Yep.
me.
That's a good
Um,
place to be. Yeah, for sure.
when it comes to the division, it's between them and Cincinnati. Whoever can win those matchups between those two teams is going to take that division. Um, and then whoever can stay healthy. Their injuries have just been really killing teams the last couple of years. Well, it really does it all the time, but um, just got to knock on wood and just hope that the Ravens can keep it together and keep that team together, and keep that band, on the field, because that's going to be huge.
Yeah, it
So
definitely seemed to me like last year was just like a bizarre like outlier, as far as just the losses and as far as like the injuries are concerned. I mean, and
oh gosh,
so
yeah,
I think that they would just I don't want to say automatic, but I think that they are absolutely still a contender, definitely for the division. Um, so, and again, even with the injuries they had, they still were a very competitive squad and just had the unfortunate run to end the season, obviously. But yeah, so I'm pretty confident in them, and sounds like you are too. So that's good. Um,
absolutely.
but you definitely are very self-aware, of the task that is getting through the AFC conference, especially for this season. So that's good. Gotcha. All right. Now, as far as like wins and losses are concerned, after seeing the schedule release, what do you think is a realistic like number to it? 9-8, 10-7. What do you think? Or more?
I would probably say 10-7, 11-6, right around there. I think that's realistic for me. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see a little bit more, but like I said, with the return of all these guys, getting J.K. Dobbins back and Gus Edwards and getting our starting left tackle back, and we've upgraded our right tackle. We have an incredible, right guard. We just drafted a stud at center. We're getting Lamar back. That secondary and that defense that we just talked about. I really, really think 10 wins minimum. 11 to
Gotcha.
12 wins is. I really think it depends on Cincinnati.
Mm,
Cincinnati scares me. They're tough, and they always play Baltimore well. And with that air attack that they have, it's scary. It's something
definitely,
you
definitely.
can't take lightly.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're going to shift gears now to, and we talked a lot of fantasy already, but just more specifically, looking at some offensive players to target at their projected cost. You can go either direction. If you can go redraft or dynasty, either way works for me. Or players to fade at their projected cost. Any thoughts on that?
Wow. Well, you're in several leagues with me, and I have Lamar in almost yeah.
Hmm.
Don't spit it up there. I've got Lamar in a lot of leagues because I can get him. I've gotten him at discounts. Um,
Yes, you have.
and so he is a big time target of mine. I love J.K. Dobbins, but I'm not. He's not an RB1. But over at Dynasty Pros Football, over at the website, I did a buy low, sell high. A couple of those articles this off season, and J.K. Dobbins was on my buy low. Not that I say you can buy him low, sort of say, but he was right up there with someone like Cam Akers to me. That this time next year, their prices are going to be substantially higher. So I think at this point is the best deal you can get them for. I think Lamar is going to have a huge year, a huge bounce back year as far as fantasy production, rushing, with that offense that he's familiar with. So he's someone with Herbert, Josh Allen, Mahomes still getting all the love, and now you got people like Burrow and Kyler now has kind of jumped up the ranks. But the Ravens lost Hollywood Brown, so it's dropping. Some people are seeing Lamar drop in some of these drafts, some of these dynasty rankings, and that's cool with me. I'm taking full advantage of that. He is a huge, huge target of mine because I think you can get him if you're redraft. You can get him at a great, at a great value, and even in dynasty leagues, I think you can get him at a very, very good value right now. So those are some of the guys. Rashad Bateman, I don't know. He's certainly a guy you want to target in your fantasy leagues. He's going to really, really put up great, great numbers. I'm not going to put him as a wide receiver one, but certainly a possibility at wide receiver two, maybe even a high wide receiver two. Um, it just really depends on the price you can get him at. Some people are trying to really sell him high right now. I'm not paying that price, but
Yeah,
um, if I can take someone like a Hunter Renfro and maybe, a draft pick or something like that, maybe Hunter Renfro in like a second or a late second and try to get someone like Bateman. I'm doing things like that.
gotcha.
Trying to, if I can take Cortland Sutton, where he's getting some hype right now and I could flip him, um, for Bateman, then I would do that. So that's some of the guys that I'm really, really looking at. Mark Andrews is going to be a stud no matter what. You can't lose with him. So those are the guys that you really, really want to pick up. But if you do have J.K. Dobbins, you certainly need to go grab Gus Edwards,
Mm,
as a handcuff there, because even if he's not, even if J.K. is healthy, Gus Edwards has a little bit of standalone value that he could fit in nicely if you're in a bye week and your running backs are hurt, or if you're decimated by injuries. You could very well start J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards on your fantasy team in the same week. Just depending on how your team is, and if you need that, he has a little bit of value no matter what.
gotcha. That's great. Yeah. So definitely bullish on the big four there, and then I guess like the big five if you want to throw in Edwards as a handcuff option, which I would completely agree with that sentiment. I'm a big fan of the Gus Bus. Now
Mhm.
I do completely agree. From I'll kind of shift to a redraft perspective. Um, Lamar Jackson is absolutely going to be a quarterback I'm going to be targeting. Uh, for whatever reason, it does seem like people have cooled on him a bit. Now, again,
Mhm.
this is the end of May. We got a ways to go until like mid August or late August when actual drafts are going to be happening. But you know, as a player who could, I think, very easily finish as the QB1 overall because of his rushing upside. If you can get him as a QB6, QB7, like this is like a no-brainer to me. You know, I tend to be more of like a late round kind of a QB player, but at the right price, I will absolutely pounce on someone, especially like Lamar Jackson, if he's being drafted behind, 6 or 7 other quarterbacks. This is just like obvious stuff to me.
Yeah.
Now, the one player I would likely be fading in a redraft league would be Mark Andrews, and it's not because I don't think he'll be productive. I just tend to wait on tight end and try to acquire elite tight end talent midseason in a trade. But I do think Mark Andrews has the upside to finish like with the equivalent of like a wide receiver too. So I think that is a massive advantage at the tight end position. But if he's going in like the top of the third round or something like this, that's just not a spot that I'm typically am going to go to get a tight end. I mean, again, it's hard to say. We got to see how things play out here. But I think a lot of people are coming around on the idea of Mark Andrews getting a massive bump because of Marquise Brown being out of
Yeah,
town.
Mark Andrews put up incredible numbers last year. He was the number one tight end overall. I don't know if he puts up those same numbers this year,
Mm,
but
okay.
but I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Um, I I wouldn't have an issue taking him in the third round,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why real quick. If you go,
Great.
depending on where you're picking in the first, you're either going to go take you a wide receiver or running back. But I think if you took an RB1 in the first round and you took a wide receiver one in the first round, because you have those top seven wide receivers depending, and I don't know if you want to call this redraft or dynasty, it's going to be different. But you've got your Justin Jeffersons, your Jamar Chases, your Cooper Kupps, CeeDee Lamb, um, but you got to throw people like Stephon Diggs in there. Um,
Absolutely.
Debo Samuel is another guy you've got to kind of add in there. You get to these, seven or so wide receivers. Um, if you can grab one of those maybe in the second round, which I think is certainly possible, I have no problem taking Mark Andrews in the third, because you're going to have such an advantage at tight end, with the exception of probably who the Kelsey owner is. Okay, you're probably,
Right.
you
Right.
know, I think that I think Kittle takes a huge step back because Trey Lance is an experiment. Darren Waller's going to take a huge step back. Kyle Pitts will obviously go up in production. I don't know how he couldn't.
Sure.
Um, but with those other two guys that were certainly elite, after that it's just dudes. I mean, listen, TJ Hawkinson, hopefully he joins that elite group, but he's got to show it first. Um, Dalton Schultz was a surprise last year. So if there's a guy if I am holding out at tight end, Schultz is the guy that I'm targeting. Um,
Absolutely. Yep. I'm with you
but
there.
but getting back to taking him in the third round, there's so much depth at wide receiver, but this year it's kind of weird is there's depth at running back. There's a
Mhm.
lot of depth at running back you can take in these mid rounds. You can go grab James Conner, Leonard Fournette, even Josh Jacobs is dropping down some draft boards right now. You couldn't tell me you wouldn't just flip out at having one of those guys as your RB2, and maybe even go grabbing another one of those guys in the next round and having that as your RB3 or your starting flex. So you could start off with a, I don't know, Christian McCaffrey or a Najee Harris or something like that, unless you've got the number one pick. Grab one of those guys, come back around, and maybe grab, I don't know who would be available in the second round. Maybe a Stephon Diggs. You could maybe grab Debo Samuel or something there, and then have Mark Andrews in the third. So
Hmm.
you've got your RB1, your wide receiver one, you've got a super stud at tight end, and then here in the fourth round, you could really start targeting some of these values at running back and stock up with those guys and wide receivers. You go grab those Hunter Renfrows.
Yep.
Um, you can go get some of these guys at really, really good deals. Rashad Bateman, that's the guys you want to look at. So I don't have a problem with taking him in the third because it gives you such an advantage over everyone in the league except for probably that Kelsey owner. Um,
Interesting. Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, I do tend to be pretty set in my ways, but I'll have to chew on that a little bit. That's pretty
Yeah, you
good.
just take into
I like that.
consideration, so
Yeah, yeah.
and you can go and grab Lamar later on, we were talking about the value there with Lamar, and, if I was you call me crazy, there is too much hype right now surrounding Joe Burrow. He has shot up
Mm,
dynasty rankings. People are putting him in the Justin Herbert range. He's not there yet. He could
mhm.
be. There's potential there. But if I could take Joe Burrow, I mean Joe Burrow last year, he had only 4 games, 4, okay, where he finished in the top 8 at quarterback for fantasy. 4 weeks, and two of
Wow.
them, two of them were against my Ravens. So yeah, half of those were against Baltimore. So it's somebody now. His stock's going up. His production's going to continue to climb. But his hype right now is way high, and his value is way high. He is a guy that I would be taking and maybe targeting someone like Lamar. Maybe Lamar. Obviously, I would be getting Lamar plus. I would, I don't know if I would probably do them straight up. I mean, in my top 5 quarterbacks, Joe Burrow is not in my top 5 dynasty quarterbacks. I've got Josh Allen, Justin Herbert's number 2, Patty Mahomes is number 3, Lamar's number 4, and then I've got Kyler 5.
Gotcha,
But
gotcha.
Burrow 6, and then probably I'm thinking Deshaun Watson or Dak Prescott after that. But he's someone I would take and maybe target someone like Lamar, and maybe get Lamar and a first round pick if possible, or Lamar and a wide receiver, a pretty good depth piece, or running back, grab like a Leonard Fournette or a Josh Jacobs or something like that in addition. Because I think that Lamar outscores Joe Burrow this year in fantasy without a doubt.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good call. I think a little bit of that Burrow love is like the Super Bowl and the Jamar Chase effect, and you still got T Higgins in this, but does not have the rushing upside that Lamar Jackson does, which really just puts a quarterback, especially a quarterback, over the top. Lamar Jackson was on pace to lead the quarterbacks in rushing attempts last year. He was on pace because he obviously missed a few weeks there.
Yep. Yep.
I think that cannot be overlooked, as far as rushing as far as fantasy production
And think
is
about,
concerned.
and with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards returning this year, and them going back to that 12 to 13 personnel, all of that is in Lamar's favor. So
Love that
me,
power
you're in
football.
league.
Yep.
Yep, you're in leagues with me, man. I am a dynasty businessman. I am a fantasy businessman. No one is off limits when it comes to me. If you message if someone messages you and you say, "Hey, he's not available. He's off limits." You're doing it wrong. Okay?
Right.
Everyone has a price. Um so I'm always looking to do. You're not going to hurt your team by trading Joe Burrow to get Lamar Jackson, and then you can get some stuff thrown in with that. Um, Man, I'd jump on that all day. Now, I wouldn't trade Justin Herbert. I wouldn't trade Josh Allen. I mean, those are your 2 top guys. Patrick Mahomes, I'm probably keeping him over Lamar, but Lamar's my 4th. So if I can get him, and with some little nice little additions, draft picks or whatever, for someone like Burrow, or maybe someone like Deshaun Watson, or probably Dak or something like that, man, I'm doing it.
But I think that's the real value in really taking the time to like make your own rankings and really think through this stuff. If you just rely on random ADP or random like rankings
Yeah.
here or there, you got to think for yourself and then find where those gaps are in where you value players versus consensus. And then, like you said, you make your deals the way you think you ought to. So I think that that's just a really good uh lesson that can be learned there.
Mhm.
So you think, well, who cares how the league like might like react to the trade going through? You're like, you can chirp all you want. I'm very happy. You know what I mean? So no, I think that's great. Um
You've got to take people's rankings into consideration. We had a guy that we brought on at Dynasty Pros that his first article, if you might remember him, gosh, I can't remember his name now because he like wrote one article and like pieced out. But
Gotcha.
his article really raised a lot of awareness. It was like, don't trust the rankings.
Mm,
And some people listen, I'm sitting here talking through purple, glasses because I'm talking about the Ravens and my just uncanny love for Lamar and Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman and J.K. Dobbins. I mean, you know this, but there are people that do rankings based off of that. I'm not making Lamar the number one dynasty quarterback or anything like that. And there may be a lot of people that disagree with him being as number four, and I have him as number four. But there are people that make rankings that some of them will do it to benefit their own. Um, you do articles or you do these podcasts, you do these shows, and you talk about players you really really like, and you can't keep it a secret. Like I've
that's
played,
right.
you know what I'm saying? That we play in
Yep.
these dynasty leagues. I remember trying to make a trade with a guy, and I tried to get him to throw in Josh Jacobs in a deal, and this was like 2 weeks ago. And I said, "Oh, you don't want Jacobs, blah, 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 blah." I'm sitting there talking smack. And he goes, "Bro, I watched your show the other day. I know how you feel about Josh Jacobs." And I was like,
Yeah.
crap, crap. But yeah, you get that a lot of the times. That guy wrote that article, which really, really opened a lot of eyes. And it was just like, trust your own gut is what he was really getting at, because
Right.
our rankings at Dynasty Pros, a lot of those rankings are my rankings,
Gotcha.
just mine. Okay. So my opinion is going to be different from yours, from other people out there. So I do agree. Go with your gut. You've got people out there that call themselves experts or that are professionals. Man, they don't hit a home run every at bat. They don't hit a home run 50% of the time. Okay.
Right.
Um, so you definitely want to celebrate your victories, but you got to kind of lick your wounds when you have some losses there. Um, my buy lows and sell highs and my predictions, I've hit really really well on a lot of those, and some of the guys I really whiffed on. But you just got to take that consideration with rankings. Some people make
Definitely.
rankings to benefit their own. They'll
Mm,
they'll rate. Yeah, I've seen people raise players' values because, oh, I've got that guy on my team. You know what I'm saying? And then, oh yeah, when I'm going to make a trade, look, man, look where I've got Leonard Fournette. Man, I've got him way up here. That's just my thoughts. But yeah, you got to keep that in mind. So it's not the most popular. My dog is going nuts in the background. My puppy. I don't know if you can hear him, so I apologize.
that's
He has his own opinions, I guess, but yeah, you just gotta trust yourself sometimes. Go with what you. That's the whole point of this. It's not all chalk. You don't want to just going down the line and take this guy next. Make your own list if you can. Go with your
yeah.
heart sometimes. Go grab a guy. Take a risk. That's what wins games. That's what wins it all for you.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. With these kind of interesting decisions, to even like go for two rather than just tie the game, right? That the coach has an inkling, like I think this is going to work, or what a trick play, or and same thing applies to trades and things in dynasty and everything else. So no, I love that. I think that is very true and very wise. But Bob, I think we nailed it. I think we covered the Ravens exceptionally well here,
Yeah.
and I do like the confidence in your team. That's really good. I usually just have like a cautious optimism. Some years I'm just expecting like a high draft pick the next year. But no, I think you are correct in your confidence in the team and the outlook, even with the tough AFC conference. So yeah, we're just going to wrap it up here with a final round of plugs. So, well, one last time, tell people where they can find you and what you're working on.
Oh yeah, you can find me on Twitter at DynastyBobFF. Certainly take a look at the website if you're a Dynasty player, at dynastyprosfootball.com. Like I said, we have some of the best rankings out there, some of the best trade value charts. We've got a lot of good stuff. Even Devi, if you're into Devi leagues and whatnot, or if you're thinking about dabbling into that, we've got some, if not the best Devi rankings that are out there. And IDP, we're huge into IDP, and you know that, Steve. And I think we definitely have the best IDP rankings that's out there on the web, because a lot of IDP scoring is a little boring.
Mm,
Um, our scoring system is phenomenal. We've been tweaking it for years, and we really, really came up with the right recipe, in my opinion. And so we've got a nice article there explaining our scoring system and why and where to value certain players. So, like I said, over at dynastyprosfootball.com, we've got a lot of good stuff out there, and a lot of that is by, you can become a member with us and really, really see a lot of this. And like I said, it's only $3.99 a month, or if you want to sign up for the year, it's only $39. So it's a great, great value. So, again, if you sign up with us, we certainly appreciate the contribution, and we hope that we don't disappoint, but I'm certain that we won't.
You make it worth it, you make it worth the subscribers while, right? So that's
Absolutely.
awesome. That's great. Well, Bob, best of luck to your Ravens, and best of luck to your dynasty teams. We'll catch you next time. All right.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep, you got it. Take it easy.
Thank you.